And something has just popped up. I'd say Google make all these little changes. And actually something popped up and said, "You are now live." And then behind that, it says a live symbol.
Yeah.
You know, belts and braces approach. Maybe they should put the little symbol to the left of it. Anyhow, folks, this is the second hangout in the last, in the last 24 hours, there's been quite a few. There was two with you, then I did a 3.5 hour hangout with Jonathan.
Yeah, well, I wasn't in that. So.
Yeah, you might want to hold off watching that, Jeff, until you've watched like the first 7 episodes of Blade 7, because I did mention.
Okay.
I mentioned Serverland.
I got a backlog of your videos to watch anyway, so who knows when I'll get to that.
Yeah.
But tonight...
I can't believe you're watching all of them. That's a lot of videos to watch.
Well, I might not all of them, I don't know. But anyway, so we're gathered here to review Son of a Gun.
Yep.
Which was originally supposed to be the 4th episode of the first season, but was broadcast 3rd when the episode Night of the Dead Living was moved to the end of the season. I'm prepared with a little summary and article thing, because Ben's been, reading from books and things about Blake 7, and I just been kind of like sort of trying to spit out a summary, so I figured I would actually look up a thing that talked about the episode, so I'm going to read that quickly and then we can talk about it from there. So it originally aired on NBC in the United States on February 10th, 1993. It was written by James Yoshimura, based on a story by executive producer Tom Fontana, and the episode was directed by Nick Gomez. The shooting of a police officer...
Your sound cut out. After you said Tom Fontana, if you start...
Okay, episode was directed by Nick Gomez, was all I said after that.
Right, okay.
And the shooting of a police officer, as well as other aspects of the script, were directly inspired by real-life events chronicled in David Simon's nonfiction book, Homicide, A Year on the Killing Streets. And, okay, plot summary. All right, here we go. G informs the detectives that Officer Chris Thorman has been shot in the head, and he orders an immediate investigation. Lewis and Crissetti arrive at the hospital to find the doctors working frantically on Thorman. Crissetti, a close friend of Thorman and his former sergeant, becomes very emotional. Crissetti comforts Thorman's wife, Eva, but is privately told by Dr. Eli Devilbus, however you say that Thorman may be blind or mentally disabled even if he survives. Crissetti begs G to give him the case, and even though G believes he is too emotionally involved, he gives in when Crissetti tries to make him feel guilty by showing him his previous gunshot wounds. When an investigation at the crime scene turns up nothing, Lewis catches Crissetti praying with a rosary in the locker room. Crissetti convinces a skeptical Lewis to pray with them for help in the investigation. Meanwhile, Bayless and Pimbleton continue their investigation into the murder of 11-year-old Adina Watson. They repeatedly comb through the crime scene and conduct arrests and interrogations throughout the neighborhood, but they fail to find anything new. Frustrated, Bayless snaps at Pimbleton, prompting Pimbleton to request a new partner, but G refuses and remains confident Bayless will solve the Watson case. Elsewhere, while Bolander prepares for a date with medical examiner Carol Blythe, he complains to his neighbor Lorenzo Malera about noise he's making while doing his carpenter work. The two end up bonding over beers, with both confiding in each other about their exes. Inside Malera's room is a coffin he built for a customer, which Bolander insists is bad luck. Bolander's date with Blythe goes well, but he nervously rejects an invitation back to her apartment when he receives a call from work about a murder. The call brings him back to Malera, who has been found dead inside his coffin. Bolander tells the investigating police that Malera died of a broken heart. Inspired by his deceased neighbor, Bolander returns to Dr. Blythe and asks to come inside after all. While investigating a murder involving a hitman, Howard and Felton question Miles Stradinger, who serves as an arbitrator between hitmen and their customers. Stradinger gives up several of his clients, including Calpurnia Church, a woman suspected of murdering 5 husbands for insurance money. Although Church denies killing anybody, the detectives find enough evidence to close many outstanding cases. It doesn't say that in here, but the evidence that they got from her current husband, who was also her nephew, was the book where she kept, or album where she kept all of the death certificates and insurance policy information very conveniently for the cops to go through. Lewis, who had previously been investigating the church case, believes his prayer with Cressetti led to her arrest. This is further upheld when Cressetti receives an anonymous call claiming a man named Alfred Smith shot Thorman. While searching for Smith, Cressetti meets a man named Charlie Flavin, who said he saw Smith shoot Thorman and will testify to it in court. The episode ends with Cressetti sitting with an unconscious Thorman in the hospital and listening to jazz music, which the two friends used to discuss frequently. And just a few production notes I got here before I think I'll turn it over to you. Tell me what you thought of it. But it says "Son of a Gun" was written by James Yoshimura. Okay, I already said that part. It was the first Homicide episode written by Yoshimura, who would serve as a writer and eventually supervising producer throughout the entirety of the series. The episode featured a blending of hard-edged emotion and amusing character comedy, the combination of which would become common in future Yoshimura-penned episodes. It was originally supposed to be the fourth episode. Okay, I already said that. NBC programmers worried that the latter episode, Night of the Dead Living, which takes place entirely within the detective squad room, was too deliberately paced for a series still trying to win viewers. However, as a result of the move, the Dina Watson investigation had suddenly advanced further than it lasted in the previous episode, Ghost of a Chance. The episode continues the story arc of the Dina Watson murder case, which was introduced in the final scene of the series premiere Gone for Good and dominates much of the Homicide Life on the Street first season. The Watson case was based on the real-life 1988 Baltimore slaying of LaTanya Kim Wallace, which is chronicled in Homicide: A Year on the Killing Streets, the 1991 David Simon non-fiction book about the Baltimore Police Department, which was adapted into the Homicide series. The investigation into Calpurnia Church was inspired by the real-life case of Geraldine Parrish, which was also featured in Simon's book. Parrish was accused of killing 5 husbands for insurance money and was eventually convicted for 3 of their deaths. The shooting of Officer Thorman was also adapted from true-life events in Simon's book, although Homicide writers added the twist of Cressetti taking the case personally based on his close friendship with the victim. Edie Falco made a guest appearance in Son of a Gun as Officer Thorman's wife Eva. Fontana cast Falco after watching her performance in Laws of Gravity, a 1992 film also directed by Nick Gomez. Fontana said of her, "She's an actress who's unadorned by any embroidery. She does everything with such simplicity and honesty. It's breathtaking." Falco was a struggling actor at the time and said her salary from the one Homicide episode paid for 1 month's worth of rent. Fontana cast Falco as a regular in his HBO series Oz, based on her work in the Homicide episodes. Son of a Gun was also the first of 5 Homicide episodes featuring Mel Proctor, then the home team sports announcer for the Washington Bullets, as recurring reporter character Grant Besser. Actor Walt McPherson made a brief appearance as a uniformed police officer who finds an earring at the Dina Watson crime scene and offers it to Bayless as possible evidence. I'm not going to read the next part because it spoils something in a future episode. The line spoken by Lewis, "Murderers lie because they have to, witnesses lie because they think they have to, and everyone else lies for the sheer joy of it," is almost a verbatim line from Homicide: A Year on the Killing Streets. The line represents a 3-rule theorem about police work Simon created after following Baltimore Police Department Homicide Unit for 1 year while writing his book. Cultural references, as Son of a Gun continues a common motif repeated throughout the first season of Cressetti discussing various conspiracy theories about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln. Cressetti said he believes the killing was arranged by the highest ranks of the Confederate States of America. Cressetti's fascination with Lincoln assassination was not in the book, was based on Tom Fontana's real-life obsession with it. It says the original broadcast seen by 6.52 million viewers, ranking 3rd in its time slot among major television networks. Continue the downward trend since the post-Super Bowl premiere. Son of a Gun lost ratings in large part due to a live Oprah Winfrey 90-minute interview with pop singer Michael Jackson, which aired on ABC and was seen by 36.59 million people. The 4th highest total recorded by an entertainment program at the time since 1960. Yaphet Kotto, who plays G, said of the scheduling, "Heck, on that night, even I was watching Oprah instead of our show." Also lost in its time slot to a cast reunion of The Andy Griffith Show, which aired on CBS. Lou Gronke of the Chicago Sun-Times called the episode outstanding and gave it the highest possible rating of 4 stars. Nicholas Reed of the Gazette praised Son of a Gun for its realism regarding the episode's portrayal of Thorman's injuries. Reed said, "For U.S. network television, it's pretty disturbing stuff. The series isn't afraid to show it in a graphic a way as network television will allow." Alex Strachan of the Vancouver Sun said it was among the sharpest, most grueling episodes of Homicide. Bruce Dances particularly complimented the performances of John Polito, who played Cressetti, and Edie Falco, who played Thorman's wife, who she said played brilliantly in her guest role. So anyway, yeah, there's some stuff about that. So, Ben, what did you think of it?
Edie Falco was the wife of the...
Yes.
Oh. I didn't think she was that good. I thought so-so for her. Anyhow, when you said that bit about nervously, I don't think he was nervous.
Who?
Bolander with Dr. Bly. I just thought it was a bit... It was more... Right, so I just thought it was a bit odd
Well,
when...
he seemed like he was using work to cop out, you know, of going back to replace, because he was kind of scared about it.
It didn't seem like that to me, because he didn't seem preoccupied. Because to me, he seemed to be talking more about his ex-wife.
He did a good job of covering in terms of making it like, you know, he was saying, well, the job, you know, I have to do my job and it's more important, even when she sort of said, well, you know, you could be a little late going back. And he took it as an opportunity to sort of get out of that.
Well, it depends. Yeah, but he would have known that he would have been at his place, though.
What's that?
He would have known that because he then found out he's at his place. It's his neighbor.
Uh-huh.
But that's just the way I saw it played. Although...
Yeah, I mean, I definitely got the feeling that he wasn't sure that, because he's more comfortable with work. So to him, it was sort of an escape hatch, you know. He enjoys Dr. Blythe's company, but he was still nervous about where things were going. So it sort of gave him a way to conveniently get out of it.
And he was nervous.
It wasn't until after, you know, he actually went and you know, was confronted with the neighbor dying, and thought about, you know, I guess what they would talked about earlier, that he decided, you know, to go back and, you know, go back to Dr. Blythe's place.
Yeah, I mean, when he visits her 5 minutes early, he's definitely nervous there. It's just that when I saw him, I mean that thing when he was talking about his wife and then he was bumping shoulders with her.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that came across as, oh, he's pretty relaxed there. And then also, the way the scene was, is he was happy to go to her place before the pager called. I mean, for all the kids out there.
Yeah, I think he was happy, but also still nervous about it. To me, that was the vibe I got. That it was like, you know, he wanted to, but at the same time, there was a part of him that was also happy to get interrupted and have a way out, because he didn't seem like he was that mad about having to leave. It was more kind of a, you know, okay, I shifted back into work mode, and it was actually more comfortable for him. Doesn't mean that he can't enjoy himself outside of work, but it was sort of like, okay, back to what I know better, you know. And then this which is kind of hard. One thing I was going to say, because I talked before in one of the previous ones about, you know, so many good little details in the show, and one that I didn't even mention when we were doing the review of the second episode, and it just came back to me when I was thinking about it at work today, was the great they spend the time at the pre-credit sequence in the second episode with everybody keeps telling Bayless it's time to move the body because he's been spending all this time, and then when they first have when they have Dr. Blythe in the morgue, you know, the first thing she tells him is, "You let them move the body too soon." And I thought that was
because
great.
She wanted to put
because
there's
those little things like that are so great in the show, in that they, you know, they always have, everybody has their own perspective on everything. No matter how many people tell you one thing, there's always going to be somebody who's still, you know, disagrees.
Now, do you know why Dr. Bly wanted the thermometer reader?
Well, she said something about being able to tell better what the time of death was. Yeah.
Because based on the temperature of the body, you can see how long they've been dead. Right. And that was used as a plot device in a Columbo episode where one of the people, he put the dead body in, he warmed them up in a sort of electric blanket to where they did the thing. Anyhow, sorry about that, Jeff. That came across as rather patronising. Sorry. Right. Yeah, with the brain damage thing, the reason why they worry he might be blind is because either the exit wound or the entry wound, or rather the makeup on the actor, here, and so the bullet would have maybe gone through the optic nerve. That's why they're saying that he might be blind.
Yeah, they used that plot line back in the 80s on One Life to Live when they had Clint Buchanan who got shot in the head, and it caused him to temporarily go blind. And in fact, there was a brief period where they said that he was dying because one of the bullet fragments that was still in his brain had dislodged and basically, well, basically the effect of it was kind of like a brain tumor. So they were saying that he was probably going to die, but he didn't end up dying. It was done for plot purposes. But anyway, back to Homicide.
Yeah. Well, what this reminds me is that American television really is ruthless in terms, and it shows you in a good way, in that it shows you the pressures there are on producers of programming in the United States by just how much competition there was at the time and why the quality became so high. Because it was in the 1990s that the quality of American drama really went up. Because in the 1980s, I think they thought that the BBC made the best programming.
Who's that?
I think
BBC writers.
No, I think some people in America, when they saw British programs, they thought that. But that took over in the 1990s.
Yeah,
Started to make better programming.
I'm kind of biased in that way, in that I am harder on dramas than I am on comedies. Like comedy, all I expect out of a comedy is to make me laugh, and as long as it does that, then I'll like a comedy. Now, I like better comedies that have more to it than just, making some laughs. Like if there's layers to the jokes and other things that are kind of biting satire types of, I like some of those other kinds of comedy even more, but all I really expect out of a comedy is to make me laugh. Whereas a drama show, I tend to be much tougher in terms of it really has to do more to win me over. I'm going to get bored of it pretty quick unless the characters are compelling in some way, or there's something about the plot that really grabs me. And even with Homicide, as awesome as I think it is, and as much as I love it now, when I first watched it, I was still a teenager at the time. I thought it was good, but it wasn't immediately a show where I was like, oh, I can't miss this, the episode, there's an upcoming episode, which was the one that really, really got me to be like, okay, I got to watch this show. There's an episode, and I won't say which one because I don't want to bias your opinion on it or anything like that. But anyway, it's in the first season. But there's one where it was the first one that really just reached out and grabbed me, like, okay, this show is really good. And it was not this one, although I certainly didn't find any fault with it. It's just at the time on initial viewing, it was still sort of. It was probably, in some ways, a wise choice by the network, to run the out of order thing, even though now I don't like it. At the time, I understand the logic they had about that, and it's possible that if I had seen Night of the Dead Living, I might have been bored by that and not want to watch the show anymore. So I can't say for sure in retrospect what I would have done. But anyway, I liked the fact, the one part that I really did like is the fact that even though they would introduce a new dramatic plot happening with the cop being shot and all of that aspect of it, that they still had the other plots going on. They were still doing the Dina Watson stuff. They were still having, Bolander's date, although that was probably the least interesting to me of the other plots. But and they even had, they found a way to still have the Calpurnia Church stuff going on, and had, were able to involve Felton Howard in it also. So they found something for everybody to kind of do in the episode, despite that the shooting being like the thing that was holding the episode together. But I liked the different plots going on, and that's something that was consistent for at least the first several seasons of Homicide.
To me, it's Crissetti, Bolander, and Munch that lighten it enough for me, because it's a bit downbeat and a bit dark. I mean, in terms of the balancing in tone, I think they get the tone right. And I very much like. I think the guy that plays Crissetti is really good. First episode, with the scene when his eyes are brilliant. In the scene where they're eating a meal at a table, and I think it's the scene right at the end where he's making a racial complaint. And I just thought his eyes were brilliant. I mean, you watch that with the sound off, and it's still funny.
Yeah, there's lots of little, and like I said before, they kind of alternate who is kind of being in the darker situations and who's providing more of the comic relief from time to time. Because there was, in the midst of the Adina Watson and the intensity of that, you had Felton come up and say, here's the story on these, sex offenders we investigated, and he's like, 4 of them are in jail, 2 have alibis, and then he turns to Howard and says, and one of them's actually the perfect guy for you. And so it's there's little moments like that where it breaks the tension, and but it also illustrates how Bayless was really not paying close attention because he was so focused on the case that he wasn't gonna even chuckle at the humor of it because he was too focused on what he was trying to do.
Part of it, though, is that if you're in a low mood and you're watching a series and it reminds you of how grim things can be in terms of all these murders going on.
And there have been times, and actually probably towards the end of the time Homicide was on, that may have been part of the reason why I didn't necessarily watch it every week. In retrospect, I thought I kind of bought I said this before in the other one, that I sort of retroactively bought the narrative that the quality had gone down. When I rewatched it, I really didn't think that happened that much. But I think I may have used that at the time as an excuse sort of not to watch as much, but it may have been more like I didn't want the darkness in my life.
Yeah,
because I've done that before. With other shows like NYPD Blue, the same thing happened. I had to take a break from that. They did an episode that was just really disturbing, and I don't remember off the top of my head what season it was in, but it was more than one episode. It had kind of been a series of episodes that had been sort of that mood, and this one was just really the killer, no pun intended. It was a story about this guy who had taken his kid to the park, or some public place where there was a public restroom, where he left his kid alone to basically have a rendezvous in the bathroom with somebody, and the kid got, well, let's just say some bad things happened to the kid.
How old was Morgan at the time that you watched this?
Oh, that was before Morgan was born.
Right.
Yeah, that was...
might have been even worse if it was like Morgan was like 6.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, there's things that definitely... I mean, the movie Finding Nemo is one of my favorite movies of all time, and part of that is like that movie came out when my son was 4 years old, and obviously I was a single father, and the idea of the plot of a single father who has to search for his lost son. I mean, I couldn't help but be grabbed by that, and obviously there was plenty of humor and other things to it, but it was that was going to be a story that touched me in a way that it was going to stay with me forever, and it still does. And every retelling of that story, every version that I've seen or heard, I love all of them, because it's just, it's just one of those things that's emotionally connecting to me.
A quick,
So anyway,
a quick point. Just a quick thing about Doctor Who. Only quick. Is I did the episode that I watched Doctor Who before, but the episode that made me record the episodes from then on was Horror of Rock. Wow, this is really good. And then I decided to record all the episodes from then on.
This time your sound messed up, so I didn't actually catch which episode you said.
Oh yeah, Horror of Fang Rock.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And then I thought, when I saw that, I thought, wow, this is a really good episode.
That was a pretty bleak one, too. That was one of those where basically everybody dies besides the Doctor and Leela.
Yeah, and even then you thought she might be blinded.
Yeah, so yeah, that was pretty intense. It's not one of my favorites, but I think it's a well-done episode, a well-done story for sure. And some good performances, definitely.
Yep.
Some great Leela moments.
Yep. Oh yeah, and anyway, we'll talk about that in other videos.
I'll just say one line that I appreciated Leela much more as an adult watching Doctor Who than I did as a kid. I'll just put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I appreciated Perry the most.
Yeah. Well, I appreciated Perry even as a kid, but I guess I was sort of heading into puberty about that time. So.
Yeah.
Anyway, back to Homicide.
And folks, let me say, Nicola Bryant still looks good now, and she's probably 50 or something.
Yeah. And Melissa Leo, who played Kay Howard on Homicide, she won an Oscar a year or two ago. So she kind of had a rebirth of her acting career. Most of the people on this show, didn't become like superstars or anything, but definitely some of them have had pretty good careers.
And that's what I mean. By the time, as you get older, you can see why certain people are successful and those aren't. Yeah. That you can see it is actually merit-based. It's not really by chance. Chance is an element, whereas before, when we're younger, now, because we can tell who's good and bad now.
Yeah, and Andre Braugher, who played Pimbleton, was, called by most people the breakout star of the show, and he's not exactly a household name. He's not like he's some movie superstar, but he's certainly done plenty of things since Homicide that have garnered him, critical acclaim for sure. He's currently on the comedy show Brooklyn Nine-Nine, which I don't watch on a regular basis, but on the rare occasion that I catch it, if it happens to be on a scene with him, I'll watch it for as long as he's on the screen, because he's just one of those actors where you're like, okay, I got to see what he's going to do,
How old is he now, Andre Braugher?
No, I don't remember off the top of my head. I'd have to look it up.
I liked a line from the wife. It's a nice little character detail. He's so careful about the way he looks. He would be so furious if he could see himself now.
Yeah.
And then the one bit of humour that I liked was Calpurnia Church, where she said, "Can I have a fried chicken sandwich from Crazy John's?" and then Lewis said, "No, not tonight."
Yeah, she was very oblivious acting for the criminal mastermind. She had all planned out, but then when she was caught, she seemed pretty delusional about it.
Yeah, I like the fact that there's a restaurant or whatever called Crazy John's.
Yeah, and that's a real restaurant too. It's actually a chain. Andre Braugher is currently 53 years old. He was born July 1st, 1962.
Oh, wait a minute. 1960. Oh, right, okay. So he was 30 when he did Homicide. Right.
Yep. Well, 30s, yeah, over the course of the show.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, man, when Homicide ended, he was still younger than I am now. That's kind of crazy. And basically, when I watch sports, I told Morgan, that there's always a feeling like I watched sports all these years, and it always felt like, well, I'm younger than the people I'm watching. but now I'm older than almost all of them. There's only a few people left.
And Peyton
that are
Manning
older
just
than me.
retired.
What's that?
And Peyton Manning just retired.
Yeah, I mean the list is getting shorter of people that are older than me that are still playing pro sports. So there's a few, but there's not very many. In case the audience is unaware, I am currently 39 years old. So, I don't know what else you want to say about Son of a Gun.
Uh, yeah. By the time you see this episode, you really get into the fact that this is a serial thing,
Mm-hmm.
and what else? What else? There's little. Again, the audience is. I think it would have taken a while for the audience to get used to the rhythm of the cast, and that they are talking at a natural speed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of the audience at the time, or maybe it's just my ears, they would have missed little bits.
Yeah, and there were certain things like, I mean, now that I got the internet and can look things up, I can confirm some things that were said, but at the time that I saw it, of course, probably didn't even record it. I just watched it live, and so if you missed it, you missed it. So there were little things I remember, like that I first thought that the guy's name was Charlie Flavor, not Charlie Flavin. I thought it was like he had a street name or whatever, was Charlie Flavor. So some little things like that, but uh, there was something I was gonna say. Oh, I thought it was a good, since we like to point out those little personality moments. It was a nice little artisan guardian type moment when Bolander gets home and he's the next door neighbor.
Yes, I was going to say when he takes the beer, and I
Yeah,
thought this guy is definitely an artisan.
He takes the beer and then he talks about how great wood is, and Bolander's like, I work all day at a dead end job, and you ask me if I like wood, But that's what that guy, is into. So it's like he wants to share his craft with somebody else. So yeah, he
Yeah,
pulls Bolander into his world.
yeah, but the way I saw that was the negative side, both negative and positive, where he's the negative side of the artisan trait, where it's like, I really want a beer, so I'm going to take his beer. And then the positive side of him, his generosity in opening up to him.
Mm-hmm. And then turns around and hands Bolander a beer and says, "Have this on me."
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked that. That actor, Luis Guzman, seen him in a lot of different things, and he usually plays an interesting character like that. He had a recurring role in NYPD Blue too.
So do you think now that you, maybe for a while, that you now know, no surprise they became successful, they're good. You can sort of tell who's going to have a good career.
Oh, you just mean like the homicide actors in general?
Yeah, or just generally now when you're watching TV, you can tell, okay, they're good. It's not like a lottery the way it used to seem when you weren't as good at judging.
Well, I mean, I think as a kid, you don't care as much about that. You just want, and obviously I went through theater class and had experience acting and things like that, so I did have a little more perspective on such things. But by the time I was in high school, I think I was already pretty good at doing that. Considering, I told everybody the best actor in our drama department is Tommy Sadowski. And he's the only one that I know of from our drama department that's a professional actor. He's currently on the CBS television show. Dang it, I'm going to forget the name again. It's Life in Pieces, that's what it's called. And has been rumored to be dating Amanda Seyfried, or how do you pronounce her name? So yeah, he's doing pretty well for himself.
I think what else was in the? Again, I'm impressed by Ned Beatty as Bolander.
Beatty,
Good
yeah.
actor. What else? Yeah, no one's acting can be faulted. Again, thought Crissetti was very good. What's the name of the actor who plays Crissetti?
John Polito.
Hey, there's not that much to say because it's continuing threads from previous episodes.
Yep.
Oh, it's just that when they showed like episode 9, and it's just that usually when it's like, oh, they're being nice to this character for no real reason, and it's like, oh dear, that character might not be around soon. They want the audience to be sympathetic with this character, then usually they get bumped off.
Yeah, well,
it's like they did that in Blade 7. You remember that? You pointed that out in Blade 7 in the episode Spacefall, when you thought, oh, they're involving this guy.
Excuse me.
But you just know it's a setup for...
Yeah, right. That was a lot more obvious. I think the cool thing about Homicide is they're not quite as obvious about things like that in terms of, even when there might be certain elements that, you know, are typical Hollywood, which there really aren't that many of, they usually find a way to put a twist on it, where even if you sort of had an expectation, oh, well, okay, I know what's going to happen, then they would find a way to kind of turn it on its head a little bit and have it, you know, not turn out quite how the predictable way. And one thing I've said before, and I'll repeat about Homicide, is the good thing is it rewards the audience members who pay attention closely. Because when you have characters that in a lot of shows would have just been sort of throwaway one-off characters, in Homicide, you never know when one of those is going to come back. And in a lot of episodes in the future, a lot of them come back in lots of great ways. So that's something I really loved about the show, is that, you know, when I would think about, oh, that character, you know, was good in that episode, and then, you know, they would show back up again. And so it happens in a lot. So, you know, that's the thing I would say to anybody who starts out watching Homicide, is pay attention. And when characters are introduced, you know, that may not be the last you see of them besides just the main people. So definitely, you know, it's one of those things with knowing the whole series. When I'm watching the first ones and I know all that history, you know, that comes afterwards, it's fun to see again how everybody gets to that place and how characters get introduced, you know. And when I was rewatching it last year with Morgan, because I, you know, hadn't seen most of those episodes in 15 years or more, it got me sometimes. I would remember what a character did later, but I would forget how they were introduced. And then when I first saw them, I would be, oh, okay, yeah, that's how they came in. So, you know, there's a few cool ones like that over the course of the show.
Was he around when you were rewatching it, or do you just remember what happened in the episode?
What's that?
Did you rewatch this episode, or did you just remember what happened? Right. Was Morgan around when you watched it?
No.
All right.
And I did ask him if he wanted to watch the second Blake 7 episode with me, but he decided that he'd rather play his game. So.
It's hard to compete.
Yeah, he walked in on the one scene. That I mentioned, I think, what he had made one comment about something. But that was all he saw. But
one episode in mind.
He hasn't rewatched any of the Homicides yet with me. So
there's an episode. Oh! I thought something was going to happen. Then I froze up momentarily. There's an episode called.
You got your laptop cooler on?
Oh yes.
Okay,
yes,
good.
it's on. Yes, and in fact, That's great, Jeff. If you just ask me. All the while, I don't mind being nagged. I want everyone to hang out with.
Yeah,
just
well,
ask me if that
when you said that, it reminded me of it. So I probably won't think of it normally, but if something you mentioned something weird happening, then I might suddenly remember, like I just did. So.
There's an episode of Blade 7 called Jewel. It might be episode 8, and there's 2 really good-looking women in it. So you might want to watch that one.
I'm planning on watching all of them.
One of them is, in fact, 3, because one of your favourites, Jenna, is in that story. Here's a little thing. Isla Blair, I think it was Isla Blair, who was the Jagaroth's wife. I've forgotten his name. I mentioned it on Facebook. I can't remember the name. Who played the Jagaroth? Julian Glover? Yeah, Julian Glover is... She's the wife of Julian Glover, and Julian Glover also appears in an episode in series 1 of Blade 7.
Okay.
So that's you might want to watch that episode. And,
well, like I said, I'm probably going to watch all the episodes.
Excellent.
You don't have to tell me. You might want to watch that episode. But,
no, it's just not that he might want to watch that because. Right. So.
Morgan, you mean?
Yeah, that's it. Morgan might want to watch that episode.
Sure, I didn't hear you say that part. So.
Okay, sorry. Right, so then, folks, it's bye from me.
Okay. Join us next time when we'll review Shot in the Dark is the next episode.
Yeah. But before that, we're going to do 2 Blade 7s. Right. Sorry, that was a weird fake smile. I'll stop it now.
Bye.